Hello, Giri Baba. How are you?
Fine, Srikanth.
Giri, good to see you.
Yes, sir. Same here. All the lovely places.
And Shashi.
Namaskara.
Shashi, sir. Real pleasure to see you, Shashi. Long time. So, Orchard's been holding physical meetings, or you've been on Zoom?
It's been on Zoom, but we did have one hybrid club assembly and board meeting.
Right.
And we've had family events, physical. We had one family event.
Okay.
And we had very good response there.
We are going to first try our first physical event at GOV.
Okay.
We had a
Vinuta,
GOV.
you must be doing all physical, no?
Virtual.
That's the first physical event, is it?
Yes.
GOV will be the first physical event?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
The Murthy sir is our Murthy.
Yes.
Good
evening,
evening.
sir.
Good evening. Good evening,
Good
Ravi
evening, good
Nedangadi. This is Murthy
Hi.
here. BK Ramadhyani.
Oh, hi. Hi, Murthy. How are you?
Hi, hi.
I didn't realize that you were from Orchards, actually. You did mention you're a Rotarian.
Yes, I am from Archers.
Very good.
And a past resident also.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Nadeem.
Hi Srikanth, how are you?
Great.
That's our past president, Nadeem.
Hi everybody.
Evening.
Hi Nadeem.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi.
Deepak Pinto, how are you?
Hi, Srikanth.
Yes, sir. Hi.
Is my good friend Toby on yet?
Yes.
Toby checked in.
Yeah, he's checked in.
He did check in, and then he's probably gone off to get a suitable beverage refreshment before addressing.
I'm here.
Oh, so you're listening in to the strategic input.
Hey, Toby.
Hi Shashi. Hi Millie.
Hi, Nadeem.
Nice to have you back again.
Hi, Shankar. Shankar is our secretary for Rotary Bangalore Basvangudi. Shankar, you're there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Shankar.
Good to see you,
Hi.
President. Good to see you all.
Hi, Shankar.
Hi.
What happened to you're having a mask? It looks like you are having something that looks much better, Jack.
Yeah.
Hello, Nadeem bhai. Hello.
I thought you had something on
Hi,
neck.
Srikanth. Hi, Srikanth.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello. Very good.
Yeah,
Thank
all
you.
the best.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. We are excited to hear you.
Not me, Toby.
Oh, you are also there.
I'm as much years as you all.
Come on. You are going to speak also. So how?
Where is our secretary? Has Palani joined?
Good evening, Ravi.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, Ravi. How are you?
Good to see you're in India for a bit now.
Come on now. I came back 6 months before.
They haven't let you out after that, huh?
And I've been attending all the meetings.
Yes, you have.
Yeah. Every meeting I did.
You are actually, if we reinstitute the 100% prize, you'd have gotten.
Sanjeev, how are you? Hi, Suresh.
Hi, how are you, Suresh?
Very
How are
well,
you?
thank you. How are you all? Nice to see you all.
Yeah, seeing you after a long time. Suresh bhai.
Mr.
How are you?
President,
Sir, how are you, past president?
Very well, thank you. You're as usual doing multiple tasks.
I'm just trying to find our secretary.
Chalo, good. So we have enough. Hi.
Jayant here, man.
Jayant. Oh, I couldn't see your
Hi,
picture.
hi, Jay. How are you?
Fine, fine. You can't see me?
Jayant.
We can see you,
Jayant has
Jayant.
joined.
Jawahar here. Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Hi,
Jawahar.
Jawahar. Jayant has joined the meeting means there must be a very interesting speaker.
Oh, you don't have video.
Hi, Nadeem.
Hi, Nadeem.
Hi, Nadeem bhai. How are you?
Hi, Sanjay. How are you?
Jawahar,
good.
Jawahar, your video is off. Put on your video.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, I didn't know that you were not coming.
Jawahar bhai, good evening.
Hi, Jawahar.
Jawahar bhai, good evening.
Yes.
Good evening.
How are you, Sanjeev?
Oh, so where are you today, just now?
Nadeem bhai, good evening.
Good evening, Sanjeev. How are you?
I'm good.
Billy, why are you so serious?
Me?
Yes.
Listening.
Listening. Okay.
Hello,
Hi,
Millie.
Millie.
This is
Hi,
a
Hi,
joint
Millie.
speaker meeting today, no?
Hi,
Hi,
Millie.
hello, Millie.
You on, Jayant?
Hi, Deepak.
Hi, Deepak.
Hi,
Deepak.
Deepak.
Daddy and all.
Deepak.
Yes, sir.
It's
Which
called good
Deepak?
production, bad. You got great production, bad distribution. Just like me. Nothing on the top of our heads.
Yes. Hi, Nadeem.
Kamal bhai.
How are you, Ravi?
Good, good.
President
Good to see
sir.
you.
Kamal. Hi.
Good to see
Hi,
you.
Kamal. How,
Hi,
Saman?
Anand.
How are you, Suman?
All good.
Hi, Suman.
Hi, Kamal bhai.
Hi, and how are you, Jan?
Good to see you.
Fine, boss.
Hi, Jain bhai. How are you?
Fine, fine.
We'll just give it another 2 or 3 minutes and start off at 7:10 if that's okay with everybody.
Yes, please. No
That
problem.
should be good.
Meanwhile, a lot of old friendships I can see being renewed across clubs.
Midtown is our parent club.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's nice.
I always call Dwarka Beta for that reason.
Who's that?
Hello, Deepak bhai. How are you?
Hi, Sanjeev. How are you?
Vijay, you're there?
I'm good.
Vijay?
Hello.
Hi, Suresh. How are you?
Deepak, I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
You look like on the video. You look like a piece of art.
Really?
You know,
Really?
Suresh, he is a work of art. I'll be both know.
Hi.
no, the lighting is so perfect.
Hi, FR.
Hi, FR.
Hi.
Hi, Far. Hi, Jawahar here. Far, how are you?
Hi. Fine, Jawahar. How are you?
All good, boss. All good.
Jawahar, where are you on the press?
I convey greetings to you from Rajasthan.
Wow.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, good.
Hi,
Our
Afar.
meetings,
Hi,
our meetings have truly gone national. Huh?
Yeah.
There's been silver lining in COVID.
Yeah, definitely.
You're there? Hi, Randeep. Ravi Om is our past president of Rotary Basvangudi.
Hi, welcome.
Hello.
We have Randeep and Vijay Raj who are very new members. Like, they are just 15 days old.
Oh, wow. Welcome.
Randeep and Vijay Raj. You're there,
Hi,
Vijay?
Welcome, Randeep. Welcome, Vijay Raj.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Also there.
Anyway, I think both of you all are quite fortunate to start off Association Rotary with one of the most dynamic presidents I've had the pleasure of knowing.
All your guidance sometimes.
Hi, Toby.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, fine, fine. How are you? Couldn't resist hearing your voice today. So I logged in.
Hi, Toby.
Okay, the time is now 7:10. We have 54 members on this call. So I'm taking the opportunity to call this meeting to order. This is a joint meeting between Rotary Bangalore Midtown, Rotary Bangalore Orchards, and Rotary Bengaluru Basvangudi. Welcome everybody. The presidents, I know that Orchards is represented by Manoj Agarwal, the vice president. Welcome to you, Manoj. And welcome to you, President Vinuta, and all the members of both the clubs, apart from our own Midtowners. I request everybody to observe a moment of quiet reflection before we move on with the proceedings of the evening.
Hello, this is Om Prakash here from Basvangudi.
Sir, you're muted.
So please unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you for that. And to get on with the business of the day, I will start for the benefit of those members who are not familiar with Midtown or the new members, new Rotarians. Midtown was established in 1977. We just started our 45th year last month in January. We have currently about 106 members. We also have a satellite club which has an additional 22 members. We have been focused recently on 3 areas of focus: livelihood and health, education, and the environment. So all the projects that we do fall broadly in these categories. Moving quickly in the interest of time to announcements. I have a few birthdays and wedding anniversaries to announce. Sorry, I'll just take a minute. On the 6th of February, I have announced the birthday of our trust treasurer, Rotarian Arun Chamaria. On the 7th of February, I have 2 Anns, Ann Archana Bajaj and Ann Namita Kejriwal, and our own Rotarian Sham Sundar Talreja all celebrate their birthdays this week. On the 6th of February, we have M.R. Jayashankar and Geeta Jayashankar celebrating a wedding anniversary. And on the 8th of February, we have Rotarian Harshvardhan Bhuvalka and Manju celebrating their wedding anniversary. Unfortunately, our secretaries got held up, so I'm quickly going to run through immediate programs in the next few days. Midtown on the 5th of February, Friday, we have a blood donation camp at Sheshadripuram College, Yelahanka campus. This follows a very successful camp that we had at the main campus in Bangalore last week. We collected about 583 units of blood that day. On the same day, we are distributing
You're muted
You're
again.
muted again.
Sorry. So on the same day, which is Friday, we are distributing tabs under the Jnana Divige scheme to the government Urdu High School in Austin Town. That will be followed by the flagging off or the inauguration of a charitable dispensary that our satellite club expects to open in the same premises. The MLA, Mr. Harris, will preside over both these events. On the 9th of February, we have our board meeting, and on the 16th of February is governor's official visit. We have project visits during the day, and in the evening we will be meeting at the Taj on MG Road, followed by cocktails and dinner. And I'm welcoming everybody on this call to do join us if possible. With this, I want to welcome a very eminent speaker today, Tobby Simon. But before he is introduced, I'll request Rotarian Manoj to speak a few words about orchards and to make the announcements for the Orchards Club.
Thank you, Ravi. It's a pleasure to be part of this joint meeting with your club and Rotary Basvangudi. Rotary Orchards, as you know, has been, I don't know the exact year of foundation today,
88.
but 88, right? We are about 88 members, Shividya?
85, sir.
85 members, and as you are aware, we've been doing some projects focused more on education, health. Education has been our forte, and due to COVID, we have done a few projects around health. I would just like to talk about a couple of projects we did during the week. We donated about 10,000 books to Rotary Panaji in the presence of the CM of Goa last week, and also the Pulse Polio, which is ongoing, year-on-year project, which is done, regularly for years by Rotarian
Rajana
Srinivasan this Sunday. And today I am told we had a blood donation camp at the Volvo factory. So take this opportunity to welcome all the members of all the three clubs and also the wonderful speakers. I understand we have a great discussion, to look forward to. So I'll not take much of your time. Hand over to Srividya for the announcements.
Good evening, everybody. I just have birthday and anniversary announcements. On 4th of February, we have Rotarian Satyanarayan Murthy, who will be celebrating his birthday. So wishing you a very happy birthday. I know you're there online. On 7th, we have Rotarian Pradeep Devta, who will be celebrating his birthday. On 9th, we have Rotarian Achata member Yadalam Subramaniam, who will be celebrating his birthday. In ANS, we have on today, and Jayashree Satyanarayana, who is celebrating her birthday today. And on 4th, we have Asha Manoj, who would be celebrating her birthday. So wishing everybody a very happy birthday. Anniversaries on 5th of February, we have our charter member, Rotarian Talam Umesh and Shamla, who would be celebrating their anniversary. Sir, I know you're there, wishing you both a very happy married life and God bless you. On 10th, we have Rotarian Ramesh Kadabam and Sudha, who will be celebrating their anniversary. On 11th, we have Rotarian Prakash Kamath and Shaila, who will be celebrating their wedding anniversary. And on 14th, we have Rotarian Ajay Shant and Jyoti, and also our manager, Sitaram and Sudha, who will be celebrating their anniversaries. So wishing them all the very best in their life. Our next meeting is on 16th of February, and details will follow shortly. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you.
Srividya, make that a short meeting and join us for the GOV.
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's now my pleasure to welcome Vinuta, President Vinuta of Basvangudi, to introduce her club and make her club announcements.
Thank you so much, Ravi sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Vinuta, the 5th president of Rotary Bangalore Basvangudi. And it's wonderful to be associated with Rotary Midtown and Rotary Orchards, who are veterans. Like, happy to know that, Midtowners are 45 years old. Like, the club wise, I'm sure you're all very young in mind and doing great projects. We are chartered in 2016 and we are around 40 members, and all of them are vibrant, smart, colorful, I should say. We have got amazing past presidents in our club who really did a lot of work in Rotary Bangalore Basvangudi. I have few of my past president Om also here, who has joined us, and thanks for all the new members, Vijay Raj and Randeep, who has joined us. Thank you so much, Chandrakanta and Purvika, who are the Rotaracts of Basvangudi, who has joined us. Basvangudi focuses mainly on developing membership, and we have around 5 Rotaracts club with us. So basically we have around, I think 200 Rotaractors, where we are trying to work out with them and create an impact in the Rotaract section. Along with that, this year, we created an impact by organizing a project called Guru Namana, where Basvangudi recognized the Rotarian teachers. This was a joint project with the district. That was a good initiative which we did. Then we are also into Krishi Connect, where we connect with the farmers on good food ingredients and ensure that is reached to many good Rotarians also. We worked on that project. We are also into lake regenerations project, and we do blood donation camps regularly. In Basvangudi, we're all into growing ourselves, nurturing ourselves, and inculcating ourselves into the Rotary mode, and this month being the Peace and Conflict Resolution month in the Rotary year, it's wonderful that we are associated with both of your class for a joint meeting for the first time. Thank you so much, Ravi sir, for this. Our next meeting will be on, we have Occasion Services Award on 12th February. Please do join us. We have recognized some fantastic people who have served to the society. So this is on 12th February. Now over to Shankar, our club secretary, if any birthday announcements are there.
Yeah, thank you, President, and thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to be a part of this joint meeting. We have a fairly busy month this time around. So starting with the birthdays, well, I hate to say it, but then my birthday falls on the 5th of February. It's like blowing your own trumpet, sorry. But then one of our newer members, Sunil, they're a couple member. Sunil, he celebrates his birthday on the 26th of February. And then we have today, actually, our community service director, Suresh Kumar Dorairaj, celebrated his wedding anniversary. I'm afraid he's not joined us today, but wishing him all the best. Our president-elect for the coming Rotary year, Anupama Savdi, celebrates her wedding anniversary on the 9th of February. And Jayasimha Shatrugna, another member of our club, Vibrant Club, celebrates his wedding anniversary on the 26th of this month. The Anns, who celebrate their birthdays this month are Suma on 8th of February. She is the wife of Rotarian Srinivas. And Jyoti Sahani, she's the wife of Rotarian Randeep, who's joined us today. Thank you, Randeep. She celebrates her birthday on the 11th of February. And the Annets, there are no children's birthdays in February. We do have our GOV on the 27th of this month. So take this opportunity to invite you for the GOV. If possible, please do attend. And that's it from me. Thank you so much. Back to you, President. You are on mute.
Yeah, I've unmuted. Thank you very much for that. Two great clubs, and we are happy to be associated with both. We've been doing a number of things on the sidelines, so it's a good start. I think without further ado, I would request our past president, Deepak Malik, to introduce the speakers for this evening. Very high-profile speakers, and they're going to address us or have a conversation with each other on a very important subject of how to face a black swan event like the pandemic and how businesses can remain resilient and thrive in such situations. Over to you, Deepak, please. Deepak?
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, President Ravi, and good evening, fellow Rotarians. Tobby Simon is the founder and president of the Synergia Foundation, which is a strategic think tank that works at the cusp of geopolitics, geosecurity, and geoeconomics. He has been an advisor to the international organizations, including Medicine Sans Frontier, a Nobel Prize winning company, the World Health Organization, AIDS, the European Union, the World Congress, and the Information and Technology. Tobby is one of the 20 commissioners of the Global Commission on Internet Governance on Cyber Security. He is also the member of the Trilateral Commission, a group founded by the likes of David Rockefeller and Henry Kissinger. He is the first to stimulate the impact of a pandemic attack and the forewarned policymakers in India in as early as 2008. His report of the deep and dark web, co-authored with the Honorary Secretary Michael Chertoff, the former US Homeland Security Chief, was awarded as the 12th best policy report to the governments by the think tank in the year 2016. He served for a number of years on the advisory board of the Center of the New American Society, the International Council for Belter Center for the Science and International Affairs at the John F. Kennedy School, Harvard University, and the Harris School at the University of Chicago. He's currently pursuing his doctoral studies in the international security. Most recently, he has been engaged by the Ministry of Defense to expand on possible 22nd century war and conflicts and to set the tone for the future preparedness. Tobby will be in conversation with our Rotarian President-elect Srikanth Bhagavat, who is the Principal Advisor and MD of the Hexagon Wealth, a wealth management company. Srikanth is a proud Rotarian at Midtown for over 20 years. I hereby present Mr. Tobby Simon and Rotarian Srikanth. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Srikanth. If you would please just set the tone and ask difficult questions to Tobby, then we can expect some insights from him.
Yeah, thank you, President Ravi. Welcome to the members of Rotary Bangalore Midtown, Rotary Orchards, and Rotary Basvangudi. It's a joyous event to have all the three clubs together. And what greater joy than to have somebody of the status of Tobby Simon to be talking to all of us today. You know, in my earlier conversations with Tobby, last few conversations, every time I would pick up the phone to speak to him, I learned something new. And each of these times that I learned something new, it was mind-blowing. Okay? And the kind of scale and the kind of respect that different organizations and different governments accord to him and his knowledge is exciting to know that we'll be listening to him today. Tobby, you know, while we are going to be covering these three areas today of an asymmetric world and Black Swan and IP, okay, before we get going into the core could you help us understand what is meant? What do you mean by that we live in an asymmetrical world? And what challenges does it pose to us?
Thank you, Srikanth. First of all, good evening to you, Ravi, Deepak, Kamal, Rotarians from the various parts of Bangalore. I am delighted to speak to you all this evening and fondly remember the exchanges that we had with Rotary Midtown in 2009 and with some of the other Rotaries together on a similar context of which you said recently, just now about peace and conflict. We were very happy last year to do an event with you all on peace of conflict, but unfortunately we couldn't take it further because of COVID. Now, coming back to what Srikanth had asked, asymmetry is a word that is quite known to us. It just means that we live in a very very unfamiliar terrains. Okay, but let me try to speak about the 5 specific challenges that will capture both asymmetry and its ability to be showstoppers. So that's what we are worried about. The first one I would like to speak about is biosecurity. Now, we have all been speaking about pandemics, and we have heard enough about pandemics. But let me speak about the next challenge that we see as it is coming out is the melting of the polar ice caps, both in the Arctic and the Antarctic. With global warming and commercial considerations, we have a new risk emanating in biosecurity, the thawing of the permafrost. As you well know, microbes can be preserved for years. And when the polar region starts melting, these viruses, which has been dormant, will become active again. Glaciers are huge repositories of virus, and migratory birds, human activities like ecotourism, defecation, polar tourism are absolute conduits for the transfer of virus. The polar microbiology would jump would be sequential. It would be from reindeers, it would go to Eskimos, and from the Eskimos, it would go to the hospitals. The second thing I'd just like to flag off is about data sovereignty. In the last probably 4 or 5 years, we have been hearing that data is oil. But let me put a caveat to this particular thing, that growing data protection and sovereignty will spill into fintech and digital currency. We had as early as 2015 predicted that the internet will fragment due to political and security reasons. And the adage that data is gold may slowly start fading away. 3, the cyber tipping. The cyber attacks, as we all know, are asymmetric. And again, comes to that asymmetric, continually evolving and becoming more and more sophisticated, making it difficult for enterprises, businesses to stay ahead of the threat. You know, in a battle scenario, the creation and massing of forces is often possible to observe. Such a maneuver needs a high level of expertise that comes from years of education and training. We can trace the kinetic material fairly accurately to its source, and the effects of a kinetic attack unfold over an observable period of time. Defense is possible as long as we are sufficiently diligent and prepared with the response. So I'll give you quickly the example of SolarWinds. This is a company that many of you would have followed recently. You know, SolarWinds is a Texas-based company that sells software and let organizations see what is happening on its computer network. Hackers, believably from somewhere else in the world, inserted malicious codes into an update of that software, which is called Orion. Around 18,000 SolarWinds customers, which included the Department of Defense, Pentagon, you name all the systems that were supposed to be protected, all of them have become vulnerable. So we call it this is a proof of concept of an electronic invasion, the equivalent of overflying Pearl Harbor on 6 December 1941. It is conceivable that the adversary has injected a Trojan horse and can activate it at any time most suitable to them. The fourth one I would like to say to bring out this thing about asymmetry is this word singularity. I'm sure, again, most of you know what is singularity. It is denoted by the simple word S. Is basically the future point at which artificial intelligence will exceed human intelligence. In short, a computer would have enough intelligence and memory to produce another computer. And finally, I would go to this particular word called GNR. I would like to emphasize on this. The 21st century technologies of genetics, nanotechnology, and robotics are so powerful that they can spawn new classes of accidents and abuses. Most dangerously, for the first time, these accidents and abuses are widely within the reach of small groups. They will not require large facilities or rare raw materials. Knowledge alone will enable the use of them. Thus, we have the possibility not just of weapons of mass destruction, but knowledge-enabled mass destruction, which we call KMD. This destructiveness hugely is amplified by the power of self-replication. So I'm just outlining 5 things which I believe that we will have to encounter in the next 2 to 5 years. Singularity being an exception which we initially thought it would be there in 2040. Now scientists are coming up to say that we might have it as early as 2028. So I thought I must flag this, and then we can continue the conversation.
The singularity event happening so much earlier, I don't even think we know what's hitting us or what's going to hit us, Toby. All right. And it's just not going to be nations. It's going to be businesses. It's going to be professions all along the line who are going to be hit by this, isn't it?
I mean, we already have seen AI. AI raised to the power of 10 could be, 100 could be, what is singularity. You have on the other side, you have quantum computing, and the way in which quantum computers are building speed, it is unimaginable.
India has announced a project on, a large outlay to do research on quantum computing. Do you think that is enough for India to do? Are we behind the curve?
Some of our best researchers are done, within DRDO, and they don't speak about it. Unlike in the West, they, in patches leave this information out. Here we have a silo between the government R&D institutions and the commercial world. I believe we are very good in this, but we are keeping quiet.
I think all over the world, defense institutions do their research, but it never reaches the common man for a long time. So I think that is where people like you or organizations like yours can play a role. You're on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, it is. You see, the key issue is trust. For example, in a country like Israel, most of the high-tech technology that you have in cyber, etc., come from the military, a particular group which does all this. And once they spend 5 years in the military, they come out and they are encouraged to start private companies. The reason is there is a trust between the government and the people whom they have trained. In a country like India, it's very difficult because who knows who is accessing these technologies. So even at a think tank level, we are very careful who comes into our office. So this is a problem that we don't know how to overcome, but we live with this.
It was very interesting that you mentioned biosecurity as a top level risk, asymmetry. I was reading this report by the World Economic Forum, which you might have seen, which outlined the top 5 risks or the global challenges that we are going to be facing. And as compared to previous years, when we had cyber tech, we had warfare, etc. there, for 2020, all the 5 top risks were environmental in nature. Climate change, weather change, water resources, etc. And nothing else. Cyber tech was not in the top 5 risks. Weaponization was not in the top 5 risks. Environment was it. Climate change was it. Something that seems so far out. Is it so close to us now? Is it happening? Is it now?
It is, unfortunately, the reality is we have to face it in the short run. Okay, for example, global warming and the rising of seas. We are already seeing it in many parts of the world. I mean, we have organizations who are already building floating cities around the world in seas. Okay, so whether we want to, here is where we should be thinking a little bit. Most of these black swan events and asymmetry, which I spoke about, we at Synergia had spoken it in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. But like any other risk, people do not want to, think about it till it happens. So you will have many people making reports after the event happens. So we keep saying, why do you do this? Okay. Now, like any risk mitigation strategy, if you want to sort of, so my question is this: is the pandemic a black swan? What do you?
Maybe not. Maybe not. It was something that was already known, but we did not know when it would happen. Correct?
Yeah, but while we know that we had pandemics from 2001, from SARS-1, and this is SARS-2, Ebola, plenty of them since 2000, and it's not, I'm not talking about the Spanish flu or anything like that. I'm talking about things that have happened in recent memory. We chose not to react, thinking that it will not happen. I mean, we warned the government in 15, 17, saying that pandemic is not a healthcare problem. It's a national security problem. But the problem in most parts of the world is on one side, you have weakened leadership. On the other side, people act in silos. So there is a huge problem in messaging. People don't believe us, especially people who are putting out the message. And we had an interesting story when it came up about Bill Gates. Somebody said, what the hell does a computer scientist know about viruses? Okay, so from then on is the conspiracy theory. Okay? What is he doing in this? So I think the problem is both with the messaging, the leadership, and because of which things that we could have solved seems unsolvable. So we call it predictable surprises. Okay, they were all predictable. Just that, we sat, perhaps it's a human nature, I don't know. But we sat, and then we are facing, See, the premise of the black swan theory is that what you don't know is far more important than what you do know. Okay? And why is it important? It is important in a way that is more gradient. For people who have significant amount of intellectual property assets, financial assets to protect, for them the lever must be much higher. For people who are at the lower end of it, it is a healthcare problem. It doesn't come and take away the core of what you have built over 20, 25, 30 years. So, it's something that there is no one rule for this. You just have to adapt yourself to what is it that you are trying to protect.
It's interesting that in the last decade, the number of animals that have come into the picture after black swan. Okay, so I've been reading about the gray rhino, the black elephant, and the black jellyfish, and so on and so forth, each. But one interesting notion was of the gray rhino, saying that it is there, it is very much visible, okay? But when it happens and it hits us, we get to point the finger to somebody else and we don't take responsibility for it.
Yeah. Okay. So today, when all this is happening, okay, the most convenient thing for us is to blame the government. What can the government do? I mean, they don't have cures. They don't have the knowledge to find all vaccines. But in hindsight, we can keep on telling so many things, which is like blaming people, but it wouldn't help.
When you would have created such scenarios and possibly with different governments, what were the kind of reactions that you faced, Toby? Did anybody see this as a reality at that time?
To be very fair, they all listen to us very attentively. Okay, but there is a larger challenge that we face when we interact with governments, is the continuity of the officers who are with whom we work. Governments change in 3 to 4 years, ministers change, civil servants change in 1 to 2 years from one department to the other. One guy likes it, the other guy feels it's fiction. So then, our work has to change from speaking about it to advocacy. And if you go one step further, it becomes lobbying, which we will never do. So all we want to do is tell again. If you don't want to hear, we back out. Because otherwise, again, conspiracy theories can come. So we are very gentle in telling this. We don't try to put it out in the media, because then media will just blow it up. It creates fear. That is also not necessary.
See, it is funny you mentioned the problem of continuity in a government. If there is a problem of continuity in a government, where does a medium-sized business stand in tackling black swan events or rhinos, or the problem of business continuity when we are hit by a black swan? What is your advice to businesses, and how should we be looking at this?
I am honestly not as competent as most of you running a business. Okay, but let me just say a few things that I have observed in my life. One is that the businessmen or CEOs must accept that they don't know many things beyond how to run a business, and that's something they do well. And the moment they start to be in denial that they know everything, that's when trouble starts. So I think the fundamental thing is being prepared to listen. And you asked me, was the government listening? Today, we are so happy that if we call 5 secretaries from the government of India to come to Bangalore for a meeting, they come. Because they know that what we are saying is very valuable to them. So you can't be seen as somebody providing this sort of angles to them, lobbying to them. They must trust you that you are in it to tell the truth. The other second part is you have also a problem of continuity in companies. If you go now to companies, you see people who are CEOs, or they also work for 2 to 3 years. And I was surprised once to meet the CEO of one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in India, in Bombay. And I was just talking to him. I realized that he did not know much of pharma. So I asked him, where did you work before? He says, I was the CEO of a consumer product company. So I just put a little pun. I said, you're selling soaps and biscuits before. He says, yeah. So, this is the problem, when you are too focused on bottom lines, on quarter-on-quarter results, the heart of doing the business goes away. Now, is it something that can be plugged? I think increasingly, even in the World Economic Forum, I read that recently, that enterprises need to change their strategic assumption of competition. Moving from zero sum to win-win. Understanding what is being competed for, and can be and to be prepared for the areas where you don't know, where you go and listen to people. We simulated a CBRN and all these in 2013 to 400 people in Bangalore. We did the avian flu in 2008. Lots of people came in and listened. I mean, the only thing we still hope is people take this and try to ring fence their business, their family, the assets, the intellectual property.
Yeah.
I think I would be very happy to listen to Ravi and most of all of you who have been exceptionally successful in business to say that, okay, we have laid out these contours. How would you ring fence yourself? Now, I will also make one remark. In 2015, we once in every 2 years, we run a fairly large geopolitical thinking meet in Bangalore. And in 2015, we came up with this topic, asking many CEOs, can you come and speak in our platform, which is a lot of elders, on please reimagine the business that you are going to do in a asymmetric, digitized world. We added that one more word. And you can see it in our records, it's there. Most of the CEOs refuse to speak. I said, well, aren't you interested in thinking? Why don't you just tell, you will have foreign secretaries, intelligence, all listening to you. And the best thing is you can get free consulting from them, because something that you don't know, they know. So at coffee break or lunch break, you can sit with them and say, hey, I have this problem. What do you think? But nobody wanted to come. We did the same thing in 2017. Nobody came. 2019, we got 5 CEOs, but all of them were retired, except Jayant Patil, who was the managing director of L&T, who came and spoke. So we feel that, you know, this feeling of being in a very protected environment, this is not going to hold good for anybody, for yourself, for the company, for the employees. They're putting everybody at risk.
You know, at a very lower level, a few years back, I had the occasion to visit a large data center in Bangalore itself. It was housed in the old ITI factory. It was quite an experience to me, because as I was being taken around the data center, I was shown the racks, and each rack had multiple internet lines going in. They said this from Airtel, this from BSNL, this from Vodafone. There's 5 lines going into one rack. I said, why do you need 5? They said, in case one fails, the other one takes over. In case the second one fails, the third one takes over. In case the third one takes, the fourth one takes over, and so on and so forth. And they had 2. I said, if this hard disk fails, automatically the second hard disk takes over. And then as they walked me through this, and they showed me 4 huge generator sets. Okay. Said, if the feeder line fails, they have an alternate line. And if both the power lines fail, they have 3 generator sets, 3 massive Cummins generator sets, each one to take on if the other fails. Okay. This was the level of redundancy they were thinking. For me, it was the first time that I had seen risks being tackled in such a massive manner. When I came back to my own little office, I run a business in wealth management. I immediately put multiple internet lines, okay, which helped me in this COVID time. Okay. Then I had multiple backups, and I keep one backup in a fireproof safe, because the data of all my clients is very important. So apart from one in the cloud, one in my server, I keep one in a fireproof safe, which is in a different location altogether. So there cannot be any kind of disruption to my business, whatever happens. The National Stock Exchange has a mirror server in Chennai. If the Bombay fails, Chennai takes over immediately. So this is amazing. And even the smaller level things, and 2 CEOs, co-CEOs don't fly in the same aircraft in many large corporations. Okay, so that both the senior personnel cannot, if disaster were to happen, business continuity is there. Okay. When we come to things like climate change, which is so overarching, how do we even look at it? It beats me, Toby. Is it going to be low-level flooding that we have to be worried about? Is it going to be jellyfish clogging nuclear reactors that we have to be worried about? What is it that we have to be worried about?
It's a very interesting question, Srikanth, and I think I must congratulate you for going to a place, watching something, and then coming back and putting it in your office. And that's the biggest learning that anybody can do. So answering you, the first thing is basically you got to understand what's your business and what is it that you want to protect. So you start from there. Forget the climate change and everything. Okay. What is it that you are trying to protect? So once you are able to map that, put the security around the core assets that you're going to protect. So if you have, let's say 20 things you want to protect, prioritize the first 4, 5. Okay. So the 5 might have to go to a vault in the Alps. Okay. You put it there because that you want to pass it on to your children and your grandchildren or your shareholders, whatever it is. There are going to be many assets that you feel, okay, let them come, okay? If they are going to take something here, I know this is going to be my damage. So which means I just may have to insure. So depending on the class of things you have, the value you're attaching to it, so the most important is know your business and know what you're trying to protect. Don't get worried about flooding and all that stuff. Okay, those are things which once you know what to do. As how you reacted after going and seeing that factory, you came back and did simple things, and you became resilient.
Resilient.
Yeah. So all this is not thinking 50,000 feet. It's basically using common sense. The only thing is, don't try to do it yourself. Talk to some people. Take insights. What's a fire? What will happen maximum if fire comes to your house? Okay, so okay, that's a risk. Because otherwise you will think fire means only it'll burn your hand. No, a fire can just devour you. So you don't have the experience of a fire. So I'm just saying, look at the attack vector I would use. See what is the value, how important it is for you to continue the business. Okay? And there is a classic story of in this between Nokia and Ericsson, which is a classic textbook case about how these two companies reacted when there was a fire in their factory. One was proactive, one took it a little easy. Big companies, 2 years later, one of the biggest brands in the world wound up. So it's not only for small people, even big people make them. You can just go to the internet and look at this case study between Nokia and Ericsson. Sub-factory, something where they were contract manufacturing. So the general sense was, okay, those guys will put it in order. But nobody realized that once you have fire in a sterilized factory, it will take you nearly 6 to 9 months to re-sterilize it. So in 9 months, Ericsson went out of business. So I'll give you the name of the company also.
Oh my Lord. Okay. Yeah. When it comes to protecting tangible assets, it seems to be within our ken to somehow extend it. But today's world lives on intangible assets. Entire wealth creation is happening on intellectual property. Okay. Do you have anything to tell us about how to protect intellectual property, its importance? I know in your own story, you have achieved significant milestones as regards IP. I'd love to hear it from you, Toby.
Most people in India never thought intellectual property was important until a few years back, because we were replicating, re-engineering, or reconfiguring designs. And that probably did not warrant us to spend so much of time on protecting it. Basically, what a patent or an intellectual property does for us is it helps us to it prevents us from going into conflicts. And on the other side, it helps us to raise revenue. On the other side, it helps us to reduce cost. So basically, intellectual property is a path to minimize risk of what, you spend years thinking about something, and then somebody steals and goes. You don't want that. Or somebody copies something that you have made and challenges you in the market. Okay? We had Basmati rice as a classic case for a long time, where it was our product. We only were the ones who were having the Basmati rice, and suddenly you had Basmati rice by 25 other countries. Okay. Now, I'll give you the example of a friend of mine called Richard Thoman, who became the CFO of IBM in 1991, and then became the CEO of Xerox. You can Google him also, okay? So he explained, when I was having a chat with him about IP, in 2008 or 9, that how he as a CFO built an aggressive intellectual property strategy to boost their annual patent licensing royalty by 3,300%, from 30 million in 1990 to about 1 billion. Okay. Now, what is interesting is this 1 billion which they have generated is largely free cash flow, a recurring net revenue stream which comes every year that represents 1/9 of IBM's annual pre-tax profit. That money goes straight to the bottom line. So you see how important it is. To match that sort of revenue stream, IBM would have to roughly sell 20 billion worth of additional products each year, or an amount equal to 1/4 its world sales. Okay, so that's how important patents are. Okay, so I was just sharing. We as a we do some amount of innovation ourselves to be what we think and we do. We at times believe we should put it in practice. Otherwise, what moral locus standi do we have to come and speak anywhere? If people ask you, have you done cyber attack? We should say yes. And that's why we are respected. Have you done counterterrorism? Yes, we have done counterterrorism. Have you trained special ops? Yes. Because if you have not done it, you're an academic. You will sit somewhere and say this may, you can say at best this may happen and this may not happen. But how can you say this will happen if you have not done it? Okay. So as a do tank, we call ourselves a do tank, we go out and do it ourselves. So one of the things we did was we started working on a nanotechnology platform for transferring drugs from nose to brain. So I'm not going to talk much about it. But what we did as we started working on it, we were very clear we were going to fight big global companies on this. So we went into a patent strategy, hired the best lawyers around the world because it's expensive, but it's pharmaceutical industry. You can't go trying to fight the larger companies without having the right arsenal with you. And in all humility, okay, in all humility, we were the first Indian translation research company to get a patent, 20-year patent in Japan and in the United States last year. Okay, now why is it important? There are so many values you can generate, but let's see whether it happens. Now, a methodology we adopted is something that I learned from some of the finest India's nuclear scientists. I was talking to them, I said, in a world where if you are networked, your intellectual property is going to be stolen, how did you do this? Okay, that people didn't know the bomb was going up. So the chief, I won't name him, he said he listened to me, wrote his answer in a piece of paper with pencil, and he gave it to me and said, tear it after you read it. Okay? And ever since we have been corresponding with pencils. So if you want to know more, you can always talk to me. But there is a little amount of, I know who wants to know this, that's why. Okay? But that we protected it basically by making sure that we did not leave digital footprints. That's
yeah. Sometimes it's the simplest of solutions.
Yeah, don't leave your digital footprint, whether it is your financial footprint or your intellectual footprint, just don't leave it. Because for me, that is my biggest asset that I would be building. So why take a risk and allow people who live in Mongolia, Chechnya, wherever they are to come into my home? Otherwise, the only way they can come is physically come into my office. So,
but this raises a pretty scare because almost all of us personally and through businesses are connected to the net. Okay, it's like we are saying "Aa bail mujhe maar," it's just out there. And then the whole thing about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, which is a new factor.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about cryptocurrency, its safety and relevance?
Cryptocurrency is here to stay. Okay, the folks that are guilty are the banks. They have been overcharging people, okay? And suddenly people have realized in a more commoditized world, okay, we don't need intermediaries. So there is no way you can stop cryptocurrency. Okay, and with blockchain, this will be the future of money. Now you have banks afraid, governments afraid. Now just imagine the problem for the government. If the whole power of the currency that you produce, which is just printing currency, correct? If that is taken away, what power do politicians have? Okay. Now, if you look at banks, your big banks, small banks, big bank, bank. Okay. Now, if they don't get a percentage of all the transactions, where are they? So we are coming out with the big report on saying that cryptocurrency is going to be there, whether we like it or not. Most people in the world will accept it.
So we have this blockchain philosophy, which has been working so well last few years and supposed to be, the narrative is that it is the most secure system. But parallelly, the 2 points. One is that I do read about it getting hacked and fractions of Bitcoin being stolen, people forgetting passwords. Okay, but that's a self goal, not to do with the external system. One is that. And second, the new risk that I am seeing. Last week in the international market, it was all about all small investors coming together on Robinhood and Reddit and defeating a large hedge fund. Okay, so the hedge fund had shorted and the investors ganged up from across the country and made sure that the hedge fund could not settle its short, and they lost billions of dollars. But it was thousands of small investors connected by social media who grouped together and managed to defeat Goliath. Okay, so that only shows that people coming together from different parts of the world can form a movement so strong it can pull down large structures. Now, when Bitcoin is a currency that is out there in the cyber world, so on one hand, you have the politicians and governments who do not want Bitcoin or cryptocurrency because it undermines their own power. And you have the Reserve Bank of India saying that it wants to ban any private digital currency. So you have governments and politicians on one side, and you probably have the rising power of the individuals. Is this something real? Is this something, one is at the Bitcoin level and other larger security issues. What is the power of the individuals coming together, Toby, to create a threat?
You know, we had a very interesting discussion about the evolution of governance, okay, which is the larger aspect that you are referring to. So you had, you know, in the 1900s, as they came, you had the capitalists, the socialists, you know, people like that. Slowly it went into democracy versus communism. Then it went into slow bits of populism because democracy and all was starting to fail. Then you have seen waves of mobocracy, okay, in different parts of the world, huge mobs converging. And what is next? Whatever is happening, let us take the example of the US, okay? I'm taking it basically because it's supposed to be the most powerful country, at least, you know, till yesterday, let's put it that way, okay? Now look at a president after an election taking charge and having no power, because you have mobs on the other side who are willing to gang up against you, okay? Which is something that you would never be able to conceive in a society like the US, maybe, you know, 6 months back, okay? So from here, where do we go? And the only way for governments to keep power is by tightening the noose around its people, okay? And this will have, you know, it's like a tensile string. It'll break sometime, okay? So what's after mobocracy? Whether it is, I'm not naming countries because we are very apolitical, okay? But all I am saying is the power of the politicians is waning, okay? So you have on one side Joe Biden coming in and he has got 200 problems to face. So he starts with minus 100. And then he has to now, first 2 years, come up to 1. And on the other side, you have Putin being challenged by a single guy, okay? And they have to arrest, they have to do this, you have to do that. Now, it's only a time before you might see something similar in China, okay? Because as long as China was growing at 8.5%, 9%, there was a social contract between the Communist Party and the people that we will grow at 8.5%, 9%. You don't worry about politics. So one part of the social contract is gone. They are not growing at, they're going at 3%. So people are unhappy. Okay. So your question is very deep. Okay. But be prepared for a world where people won't enjoy the the power. Let's say the people who rule us won't enjoy the power the way they have enjoyed in the past. There would be a period of disturbance. Okay, we will all have to face it. No, but that's real. I mean, if you read a little bit of history, every 50, 60 years, we've always had to face some big trouble.
Correct.
We were fortunate that, after 1947, we didn't face anything here in the South. But if you go to elsewhere in India or anywhere else, people have been facing trouble every 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Big trouble.
I mean, back in history, right from the time, say, democracy was demanded for in the UK in those days, was a movement, right? The Bolshevik Revolution was a movement against authority. We don't know with the increasing inequality, as they say, we spoke about it, right? How it's going to impact us. I don't see any government doing anything about this.
So this goes back, Srikanth, to the whole issue of platform technologies, which is allowing the rich to become richer, super rich, and the poor to become poorer. A simple example is the destruction of your mom and pop shops, small shops, and the larger companies coming. We call it market forces, but the issue is people are becoming poorer and poorer. Now, even in the World Economic Forum, they made some reference to that. But, their wealth. The only way it can happen is if governments forcefully, go onto some mechanism of redistribution of wealth. And that is the only solution we have if you want to talk about intergenerational equity. Because you have more and more platform technologies coming, and Ravi was right to mention that because of this, brick and mortar companies have nothing. I mean, they are all struggling. Everything is on scale, everything is on ideas, everything is intellectual property. So only the bright and the brilliant is able to survive in this world.
This
Tobby and Srikanth.
Yeah, President.
I think we are going to require a series of talks on this. It's almost 8:15, and I want to give the audience a chance to pose some queries. Fascinating stuff, Tobby. Frightening, but fascinating.
I think Pami has raised his hand. Pramod has raised his hand to ask a question. Pami? Okay, he's not.
No, not me.
So there is a question.
Okay, your hand is raised.
A question in the chat.
Then there is a interesting question in the chat here. And it's about the trade wars that are going on, Toby. Will India be safe from this trade war? Will our economy get impacted a lot?
Just on 30th, just on Saturday, we did a roundtable with the government, from as diverse and Vivekananda Foundation to the saying, we need to talk beyond politics. So would you be kind to talk about this? Because if you're going to take a decision on RCEP, that's the trade bloc, only from the perspective of politics, we might be missing something. So we had a big discussion on this particular thing, whether we had one side saying it's government's position, so we have no right to speak. We had some very seasoned diplomats who said, no, even if it is government's position, it's taken well, but why don't we just do a rethinking? Now, I can only say so much. We have been working for the last 20, 25 years to get inside RCEP. Now we are having problems with RCEP also because there is a little bit of pushback from the Indian industry. So we had the former president of CII in the meeting, who was a very strong votary, a recent CII president. I think he's still the president. Who said, we must sign RCEP. So it's not like every industry is saying no, but there are voices within voices who still feel that we need more protection. But if we protect ourselves, we don't know how we will compete ever. Our inflation will go up. because every year our cost of production will go up because the cost of electricity, the cost of water, etc. will keep going up in India, and that will come into the product. And every year you might have 1 to 2% increase in price, or even more, which is something that how much can we afford in 20, 25 years? No easy answer, Srikanth. Okay, but it's an amazing question that you asked.
It was from one of the Rotarians here. Yes. Yeah.
I'm happy that you're all thinking about this, because this is going to really, really matter the way we do business, because Asia will, in the next 5 years, be maybe 60% of world trade. So we have to trade with them.
Yeah, we should not run away from it.
We can't run.
Yeah, or hold our ego above our head either. Okay.
I mean, so even if we do, I think Prime Minister Modi is trying another way to work this out. Okay, he's asked for a couple of years. The ASEAN members also want us because we are a big market for them. So they have also left the 2-year window open for us. Okay, so I am saying hopefully the Prime Minister and his team should be able to settle this with the Indian industry in the coming 12 to 14 months. That was the purpose we said. And from the tenor and the tone, we already got the sense that they're rethinking. But there is something called real politics. The fact that today the big monster is China, and they want to tackle the Chinese first.
There's a question from David Griffith for you, Toby. Griffith, would you unmute yourself and please ask?
Hey, hi, Toby. Great to see you here. It's been a long time since we've caught up. Wonderful hearing you speak. So I've got a couple of questions. It's almost like two forces kind of going against each other. One, you have globalization, right, with technology, the internet driving all that, increasing trade between countries and things like that. And then most recently, you're seeing a de-globalization happening with nationalism rising across the world for various reasons. So how do you see these forces playing out, over the next, this decade, right?
I can try to make an answer for this decade, okay? Maybe the next 5, 6 years. I believe nationalism will triumph over globalization. Okay? It's like a full circle. People have seen, if you look at the reason for populism to come in, or somebody like Trump to win election in the US, is basically because the average American salary, if you take from 1970, the blue collar worker salary, has not moved. It's stuck there. So he's so unhappy when he sees a neighbor, which is an Indian or a Chinese, go to Stanford and Princeton, and his son not being able to study. Simple. So that is why a lot of Indians also who have become naturalized American citizens vote for Trump.
Right.
Okay? Now, what is Trump trying to do? Bring nationalism. Now, it's only after 5 years, 10 years, you will realize that you have dug your own hole. But this 5-year, 10-year window, we have to go through. And you will see it happening in most countries because, look at America. I mean, this is a country that has invested a lot in technology. In the last 5 to 8 years, they have not invested in technology. Okay? And because of which you have big problem that they are not able to control COVID. Okay, which is for me similar to what happened at the end of the Second World War, because when Japan and America dropped the bomb, that was the defining moment in the war, which made America a superpower.
Right.
Okay? Similarly, today, whoever has got the vaccine and can give it freely to the world or at a subsidized, like for example, this was the battle between China and US. Who is ahead of the curve? So it's in the last probably 6 months or 1 year that Americans have started, cranking that scientific rigor they have. So without that, if you can't compete, The only way you have is to protect things from coming inside.
Is that Atmanirbharta?
It's not easy.
Okay.
Yeah, you had earlier one called Make in India. Okay, we were the first to say it won't work, because if you want to make in India, first question is what will you make? Okay, you can't compete against China on low value things,
right?
Because they have the advantage of scale. What are we going to make if we don't have the intellectual capability? So it was to harness this that we said collaboration between military, collaboration, but it is taking time. Okay, so if you ask me, is the word Atmanirbhar important? Yes, especially in defense. You can't be buying all the weapons. If you see, these three countries here in South Asia buys about 70% of all weapons in the world. Do we need weapons? Yes. Okay, now just to answer, we were again the first to put up this question to the Defense Secretary in Delhi, asking, what weapons are you going to buy for in these sort of defense exhibitions? When the nature of conflict itself, you don't know. So we made this thing to both the vendor and tell us what is the conflict that India will face in the next 5 years. We don't need B-52 bombers. We are not going to go and fire something somewhere in Persian Gulf or the South China Sea. So anyway, I'm just saying there is a lot of rethinking. Politicians are always under compulsion for optics. Okay? So this is the problem everybody has, not only in India. You want to win elections, you want to say the right thing, you want to be seen doing that, but in most instances, all these are not possible. If you watch that movie of Margaret Thatcher, you will realize what she had to pay for bringing UK out of that morass that they were in. Unceremoniously asked to leave by the Queen. So, people don't want that. It's like lonely in the top and lonelier at the top.
Thank you. Any more questions?
There is one question, President, one last one, I think. Amongst the so many flashpoints that are there in the world, Toby, the one is there between Taiwan and China. Okay. Do you think it would happen?
Yes. Yeah. The Chinese have to show their muscle. Okay. And one thing non-negotiable for them is Taiwan. Historically, if Taiwan goes out, that's the end of Xi. Finished. So he will be committing harakiri. So what would be the scale of the conflict? I don't know today. We work with the Taiwanese think tank very closely, and we keep talking to them. And we said, you better be prepared, because they will come in to send that message, as how strongly they send that message to Hong Kong.
Oh.
Yeah. So whether they would bomb, maybe they are currently encircling Taiwan. And the deal they're trying to make with the Americans is saying, hey, you leave this place. We will take care of the South China Sea. Okay? So there will be no fight. So it's the idea of the G2. Yeah? So you have two people. You look after that part of the world. See, earlier America had an interest to come to this part of the world. It was basically the need for oil. Now they are the largest exporters of oil, so they don't need to be coming to the Persian Gulf to defend. Okay? And with Trump gone, I don't know how much more the Abraham Accord will stand. Okay? How much committed the current administration will be to the Abraham Accord. That leaves the trade, the reset of Obama. That was primarily for trade, because Americans always wanted to trade with Asia. Now, rest is real politics. There is going to be a cost you have to pay. Okay, can America afford that cost? Will it come to the defense of Taiwan if it is going to be a full-blown war? Will China do something like that? I feel they will keep, this is the battle of attrition. You wear a person down slowly, 40 years, 20 years. Chinese have no problem. They are willing to wait 100 years, but they will wear you down.
Right. Tremendous insight.
No, I'm just saying, look at them, watch them. All the planes they fly, all the battleships they are building. Basically, they believe that their gods live somewhere up in the Himalayas, okay? That's why they are interested in Kashmir and down in Sri Lanka. That's why they want Sri Lanka. Okay, so these are two places where they have a reverential connect. Yeah. Yeah, so it's not just, and we saw this plan in one of the Chinese, whatever, that was written in 800 AD. Wow. So this Belt and Road Initiative is not something in the last 40 years. It is from 826 AD.
Oh my.
So they have been working on Belt and Road for such a long time. History had, been unkind to them, for many years, but they never lost focus on that. And Taiwan and Sri Lanka are their two permanent battleships in this part of the world. Yeah.
In the Indian
Taiwan
Ocean.
And Sri Lanka. They will never leave both.
Over to you, President Ravi.
Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you, Toby. Thank you for all the wonderful Rotarians who listened, and I hope you were all as excited by and frightened by what we heard Toby say as I was. Yeah, there is I agree that there is a certain inevitability about all this. In fact, I was just talking to a group the other day from Pricewaterhouse in London, and I was saying that I'm seeing a confluence of three major influences. Number one is very cheap money. Number two is fast-moving technology that nobody knows where it is headed. And the third is weakening regulations because governments don't understand the technology and they are the ones printing the money. So these three together have created a situation where, we were talking about asymmetry. I think there are about half a dozen companies in the world whose total market capitalization is more than the GDP of India. And between them, they employ less than 100,000 people. So there is going to be a gulf. We talked, Toby, about the Gini coefficient the other day. It's going absolutely high, and that is a sense of dissatisfaction and frustration that is driving populations into the arms of what they perceive to be strong men who they hope will make a difference. But alas, the feet of clay.
Can I take a minute? Because I see only a minute, not more. I see a few questions on the chat box, and I thought I shouldn't leave without answering them. One question is from MB Sridharan to everyone. In the present trade war, how safe will the Indian economy be? I will leave that question to you all. I also want to know what is your sense of how safe is our economy with everything happening around. You had a problem in Burma yesterday, okay? The military has come in, okay, which means it wouldn't have come in without the tacit support of some other neighbor. So, which means that we have somebody, an adversary that is coming closer to our border. Okay, so would anybody like to, all of you are very scholarly, so please give a direction to that.
Oh yes, please unmute yourselves and go ahead and speak,
yeah, please,
friends.
Please. So maybe, I think either Ravi or Srikanth should give an opinion, or even Griffith, because I feel one of you can share a thought. Where is Kamal? Kamal,
Sure.
say he is also, and where is Deepak?
Deepak Pinto, he
No,
is here.
No, Deepak Malik.
Deepak Malik, of course, he is there. He is like the Bollywood star,
I know, where is he?
And
He has to come on screen.
he's there in the spotlight. You can just see the
Oh,
spotlight.
I'm there.
Please give an answer.
I'm listening. I'm absorbing.
Why don't you give an answer? You have so much of years of business experience. You have meet customers, clients all over. You should tell us something.
No, I think I give a chance to Srikanth because he's the wealth management guy, and he will have a good grip over what the industry is doing today.
I don't know, Deepak. Okay, I'll have a very short go at it from my humble understanding level. When you use the word trade war, or specifically the word war, wars are fought from the position of strength. Okay, and we as a country are yet to identify what our position of strength is. I think we don't know. We've tried, we've dabbled, we've not yet agreed. Manufacturing is not yet our strength. Labor is not yet our strength. We are not able to get labor under control. So that is not our strength. Creativity is not our strength. Executing somebody else's orders is something we can do. That's it, to some level, which has shown up in our software industry. So forgive me if I'm sounding pessimistic, but I'm not able to identify a position of strength.
Good point, actually, Srikanth, because in certain frank discussions, one point has come up that the strength of Indians is to be agents or dalals, to use a crude word. So maybe we'll broker peace in this month, as Vinuta said, of Peace and Conflict Month. No, one thing is for sure, masterly inactivity is not going to be the answer. So we have to, but so many things have been tried. Dubai tried, saying that we'll just put in the infrastructure and business will come. And today we see what state Dubai is in. Everything has been tried. I think it's going to be, as Toby said, it's going to be a difficult 10, 20 years. And for the first time, I think most people are feeling that their children will go through a more difficult life.
I would all encourage, there is so much of wisdom among all of you, because look at the collective experience you have in managing your business at whatever level, okay? Large number of people, businesses, labor, you have handled everything. And one thing we should do is have a fairly open discussion. You let it not be quoted unless you want to quote, but we must share this. It's one thing we say it's a problem, but what can we do? And with so much of experience that you have, I will really be grateful if you can put maybe 45 minutes of a time on a round table with us and tell us, what you think. Like what Srikanth said, it's an amazing point, but we don't want to end up there because, people will say you're all just cribbing about India, okay? While we will say, okay, these are the problems, what can we at least try to do? So when we had the last meeting on RCEP, the director of Vivekananda came and said, Tobby, tell us what we can do in terms of making us competitive. I said, I have no answer except please try to focus on general purpose technologies. Technologies that will go from India into the homes of the American, the European, the British, everybody. And that is how they command value. Look at all the developing countries or countries that have developed. The Americans came with all the consumer products, the Japanese came, the British came, the Korean came. They all came, Samsung, brands after Apple, it came into our homes. And then that became quality. So I said the only way, so they are the Atmanirbhar prover said, okay, let's try to formulate a, there is no point saying that we can send something to space. Nobody is going to give us any value at a consumer level. We have to get to the homes of these people in different parts of the world, and they be, pharmaceutical is a big one. Just imagine if an American takes Indian pharmaceutical, he will take anything. He will take our TV, he will take anything that we produce, because that is going inside his gut system. So I said, we already have a trump card with our pharma. The Chinese pharmaceutical medicines are not consumed by the Americans and the Europeans. They are only the active drugs are. But Indian formulation is consumed by everybody. So I'm saying we can think, and at least as a responsibility to the next generation, we can share. I've had some chats with Deepak on economics, and I found him to be so insightful. And I always call it, intelligence that comes from having handled things from on the ground. And I'm sure, Ravi, all of you, I've not met many of you, but you have tremendous amount of intelligence. Share it with us.
Maybe it's a good idea if everybody is willing to do this roundtable one day.
Yeah, when you're,
great idea.
When you're free, don't bother, don't let it get into your work. But over 2-3 weeks, just think about it when you are having coffee in the morning. Prepare yourself in your head that these are the 5 things I want to say. Come to that meeting, 6 minutes you get, put your point. And maybe after 45 minutes, you can go home. Rest we will do for you. Because you're all busy people, so don't have to, unless you want to, you're most welcome. Because I would like from every engagement something nice to happen,
No, this is a very good idea. I can see Vinuta nodding her head very aggressively.
Here I have a thought. We Indians are very good in sustaining ourselves. I'm sure, we'll be able to face any challenges which comes to us. Is what I strongly feel. I may be not I'm a very small entrepreneur who runs across a chain of outlets. Yes, I have my ups and downs on a day-to-day basis, but I believe in taking the day as it comes. Yes, there are challenges, there'll be issues worldwide also, but I'm sure we all will overcome it and find our own ways to get out of those problems and move forward, is what my thinking is.
I fully agree with you. My only 2 cents on this is this. We all face problems, we all come out of it, but we don't do anything to store that as institutional memory.
Exactly.
And the next person makes the same mistake.
I think you're absolutely right. The institutionalizing of memory is one of the key things that's required. Every day we have to reinvent everything. On which happy note, I think people's dinners must be getting cold, and that says a lot to Toby and Srikanth for the insights that you've given to all of us. Thank you, everybody. Manoj, Srividya, thank you.
Thank you so much. It was really informative.
Thank you,
and we enjoyed the talk. Thank you so much.
And we'll seriously take this idea of a roundtable forward.
It's very exciting. We should do it together.
Thank you so much.
Toby, we'll use the Chatham House rules there. What gets spoken there doesn't get spoken outside.
I mean, basically, we will not attribute it to anybody, so that the idea goes out, but nobody knows who said what, so you can't be held responsible. But you and we all know who spoke.
Yeah.
Okay? But it won't go out of the room.
Fantastic. We'll work on that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good night. And I'm going to formally adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Deepak. Griffith, good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who? It was Deepak Pinto who told me that Toby is an old friend of yours.
Amazing conversing with you, Toby. Thank you.
Thank you, Srikanth. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you, Toby.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.